Okay, so it appears that I'm left with a prickly librarian that I wouldn't risk spending a couple of hours with, even if I was paid for it. Although we both seem to be in the same boat now. Oh yeah, we were pairing up or something? I don't know. What? I slowly approached Senya. Well, I guess we'll be going together. He looked up at me. Don't you even think I'm glad. So rude. Why on earth did you feel glad? I asked naively. Never mind. It would be much better if you'd just shut up. Fuck you too. It couldn't get any better than this. She turned her back on me and followed the other pioneers. I still haven't seen any special reason to walk in pairs. They're hiking. Anyway, we were walking on the well-trodden forest trails, and it would be quite difficult to get lost here even if I wanted to. Moreover, while we'd already been hiking for half an hour, we weren't rushing into the depths of the forest trying to face all the dangers that could test our courage and harden our pioneer spirits. But instead, we were just walking around in circles. Wait, really? Walking in circles? That's odd. However, if we take into account that Olga was our chief, this hike could be compared to a hobbit's march from the Shire to Mordor. Just as Xenia insisted, I was following her at a distance in silence. The librarian seemed to be perfectly okay with it. Hey, don't you know? Hey, do you know when we'll reach our destination? Or what? The place where we'll settle up and set up camp. The whole point of this hike isn't to set up camp, but the hiking itself. Yeah, I figured, but why then go in circles? Why not? Never mind. You don't get it. Yeah, it seemed I didn't understand a thing about hiking. I guess you're right, but still, I don't know, she replied sharply and quickened her pace. I caught up with her and asked, Listen, why are you always so... I was about to say mean, but I stopped short. I haven't done anything bad to you, and I'm not going to. She glared at me in surprise. Always so... What? Well, unsociable, kind of. Or is it something about me? Oh, cut that stupidity out already. As you wish. I decided not to start a conversation with her for the rest of the hike. At last, Olga decided to end this Sisyphean toil. Oh, that actually brings an um, interesting aspect to the myth of Sisyphus that I hadn't thought about before. Like he pulls it up and rolls back down, and the rock. I mean, Sisyphus to illuminate pointless, um, like it was his punishment, doing something pointless. But it's not completely pointless. You get exercise. Like I know that, like as old as the story is, exercise wasn't really. Maybe it was. I don't know. Actually, I think it was. They said that exercise is important. That's like as old as civilization itself, probably. No, not that old, but they knew that exercise was important even when the myth of Sisyphus was created. Oh yeah. That actually makes me think about exercise. Like we do have hard labor carrying stuff or whatever, you know? There are things that are tough that we still do that machines doesn't do for us. Well, the future is, well, the future as we want it is to have machines do all the hard labor for us. So the only type of exercise is the one we enjoy, or, well, not necessarily enjoy, but do it for the exercise itself. And I mean, a lot of people go out running. That is, or like hiking. That becomes a Sisyphean toil. But it's still exercise. But it's not completely useless. That's what I'm saying. Like, is there something that is completely useless then? Not that I can think of right now. Oh well, let's move on. It's time to halt. Place chosen turned out to be a quite large glade with a few tree trunks laid in a half circle to make an improvised arbor, with the remains of a campfire in the middle. Obviously, such hikes are a tradition of this camp. Also, they haven't been walking in circles then. I was sent to gather firewood together with the other boys. It didn't take long because there were a lot of branches and, and logs of various sizes lying around. Eventually, Olga lit the fire using some old newspapers. I was eager to know what was written there, but I couldn't discern anything other than Soviet symbols. Pioneers took their places on the fallen log benches and started to talk about things. It seemed that the final goal of this event had been achieved. Well, you're gonna hike back as well, right? The only things missing were a pot of fish soup, aluminium cups of vodka, and a guitar. But I wouldn't be too surprised if all of these would appear somehow. What are you thinking about? Asks Slavia, who sat next to me. Oh, nothing special. Just enjoying the hike, I answered sarcastically. You don't look too happy. Well, I'm not about to jump for joy. Sorry about that. Okay, I won't disturb you. She sat with me for a while, but after realizing that I wasn't in the mood for talking, she left me to enjoy my introspection all alone. And all I wished for was to lie down in bed and fall asleep as soon as possible. But I was being surrounded by smoke and the useless chatter of pioneers around me instead. They were cheering and laughing and in general enjoying this warm summer evening. In the far side of the glade, I noticed Lena was arguing with Alisa intensely, and Lena seemed to be a complete. The word intensely and Lena seemed like complete opposites to me. Slavia had left to go somewhere after our conversation, it seems. Electronic and Shurik were trying furiously to prove something to Olga. Looks like I'm the only one who doesn't belong here. Like, Alisa and Lena was on the other side of the camp, and he said he wanted to do nothing, so let's do nothing. All I was doing was just watching the fire. There is a saying that claims that one could watch it forever, as well as running water. I mean, you can watch it for quite a while and enjoy yourself. Yeah. But there was also some third thing here. What was that? Olga says. One could watch three things forever: burning fire, running water, and how other people work. The camp leader pulled me out of my daydreaming. Semyon, don't you think it's too early to relax? But what else do I need to do? I honestly couldn't get what Olga wanted from me. I don't know. She stopped for a moment. But if there is something to be done, then do it without hesitation. Oh, man. He smiled ambiguously and went back to the fire to throw a few branches on. Not that easy. After those words, I am completely sure that she treats me like a personal slave. Wait, what? Isn't that... like that's her... I don't want to call it philosophy? Yeah, it's her way. It's what she strives for. That's how I run. And since she's the leader, she leads by good example. But she seems to be good example. And I mean, it is a good example. It is like if something needs to be done, it is better to do it without hesitation. It's just not that easy. I wouldn't say like she treats him like a slave. It's like she's trying to raise him to become a better person. That's how I read her personality, I think. Or at least I'm a free labor force, which is strictly speaking the same thing. If they're communist, then it's... if the whole thing is that they... I mean, it's a community. We help each other out. Drink from the well, replenish the well. Walking Dead. I sighed and put my head down on my hands, hoping my torments would be over for today. Actually, I think that drink from the well, replenish the well is probably from somewhere else before Walking Dead. But that's the first time I saw it. It's a good quote. Someone patted me on the shoulder. I looked up and saw Shuriken Electronic, who sat next to me. What do you want? I asked tiredly. Don't be sad. Is there anything better to do? Look, we've been discussing the possibilities for the advancement of the Cybernetics Club with Olga. And there's a problem. We need more guys. If you could... He hesitated. Advancement and those guys are incompatible with each other. Why? They're studying electronics to become engineers, right? And that is advancement. Such an asshole to be a character. I said nothing and started to look over the pioneers around me instead. Well, I don't have time. Can't you see that I'm always busy with the camp leader's errands? Yeah, I guess you're right. It's kind of embarrassing how it all went today with Juliana. Looked at him with surprise. It seems that Shurik blames himself for that cake accident. Yeah, it is. All the pioneers seem to be here, but I couldn't spot Slavia anywhere. I think she's still angry with me. Who? I asked absently. Juliana. Maybe I should apologize. No, it's not your fault. We sat silently for a while, and then I stood up and said, my legs are numb, I better take a walk. They made no reply. I made a few circles around our improvised camp, noticing the close looks of the camp leader following me. Looks like Olga couldn't wait to come up with some new task for me. I haven't found Slavia anywhere. Maybe I should try and go find her. On the other hand, I felt sorry for Uliana every time I recalled her upset face. Maybe this hike isn't the most entertaining thing ever, but sitting there all alone isn't any better either. but at the same time I didn't want to go anywhere. I mean, let's go find Slavia, I guess. I was absolutely sure that Slavia was alright, so I decided to stay. I guess that's enough for me for today. Like, give me the illusion of sure choice. Thank you. I sat in my previous place and waited for the end of the hike patiently, almost physically able to feel the looks of the camp leader aimed at me. At last she stood up and declared, "And now let's play cities." I had nothing against the game itself, but it was obvious that the hike would take longer because of it. Pioneers sat around the fire. I noticed Lena and Elisa, who took their places on a trunk opposite me. It seemed that everything is all right. Just a few minutes ago, I thought the opposite while looking at the quarrel. But anything's possible. I'd really like to know what they were talking about, but it's impossible now, and I could feel tiredness growing in me more and more. My mind was completely blank. To be precise, my head was so heavy that there was no place in it for ideas to unfold. While in my better times, my brain appeared to be a wide highway with millions of thoughts running by, chasing one another and causing major crashes. Now it was more like a footpath lost in the woods, which is used rarely and only in exceptional cases. Slavia didn't come back. Maybe she had something else to do. But once again, there's no way to find out now. Okay, let's start. Moscow. Pioneers started to name cities. Finally, it was my turn. I tried to listen closely to catch the first letter of the cities I'll have to use. Arkhangelsk. We played several rounds. Each new city name made it harder to remember everything that was mentioned before. My attention was dissipating and I was already lost in all these capitals. Megalopolises, villages, urban settlements. Semyon, it's your turn. Olga brought me back to reality. Oh, excuse me, what was the last one? You're daydreaming again. It was Sevastopol. Okay, then I'll say London. Already used. Well, then, it got me thinking. There were tons of cities in the world starting with an L, but it was harder to remember even one of them now. Liverpool? Already there. Los Angeles? Ah, finally. She gave me a scornful look, but the game went on. I could hardly bear to think of another city starting with an L, but fortunately it was the last round. Okay, that's enough for today. It's already late. Let's go back, I sighed with relief. On our way back, we walked as we liked without joining in pairs. We walked as we liked without joining in pairs. Night descended upon camp, a perfectly regular and normal night. It was one of those nights when the dark skies, stars, and even a crescent moon don't cause any special feelings, and the chirping of crickets and the songs of the night birds seem more like routine work noises than nocturnal chorus. In a few minutes, all of the pioneers were lining up in the square. Give me, let's see, volume. Yeah, there we go. It was quite late already, and fatigue took its toll, so our lineup wasn't perfectly aligned. It looked to me more like a line of Vikings after a successful battle, where the warriors are happy and smiling, anticipating their return to their families, rather than thinking about maintaining a correct formation. But someone else could possibly see a completely defeated troop or a bunch of survivors who have to march to their homeland with the last of their strength. Thanks, everyone. Now go to sleep. It's late already. Pioneers quickly ran their own ways, and I was left together with the camp leader. We should go too. We went in complete silence to Olga's cabin. Okay, let's sleep, she said, turning off the light. I was tossing and turning for quite a while, recalling the events of today. On the one hand, I was overcome with fatigue. On the other hand, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd forgotten something, done something wrong, said something wrong, and this feeling of incompleteness was tormenting me. It was about 2 a.m. I was dead tired the whole day, then he couldn't sleep when everything he said that everything he wanted to do was sleep. All bad things would end sooner or later. Or at least we'd take a break. Fell asleep. Oh, do we get more? Day 6. I don't know what time it was when Olga woke me up, but even before opening my eyes, I felt the imminence of death. My whole body ached, I felt dizzy, my mind was clouded by haze. Simeon, wake up immediately or you'll miss breakfast and more importantly, the lineup. Looks like the camp leader intends to exploit me to the fullest today. Same as any other day. I garbled something, covered my head with a blanket, and turned to the wall. In the end, Olga's anger will never go beyond words. At least I really wanted to believe so then. Stand up right now, or what I was gonna say triumphantly, but kept silent. Not because of fear, just because I felt too lazy to open my mouth. Really, what could she do to me? Lecture me at the lineup, hanging my photo on the wall of shame, use me for her inhuman alien experiments. Well, I'm ready for that too. Just let me sleep for a couple of more hours. Okay, but if you miss the lineup, ... The door slammed behind the camp leader, and the sleep which had been about to fade claimed my mind again. I woke up dazzled by sunlight. It was 1 p.m. according to my cell phone, which was squeezing the last drops of charge out of its battery. Strangely enough, my body didn't ache. My head felt clearer, and all in all, it was a good beginning to the day. Alright, so he has his cell phone, which, well, it wouldn't be considered magic. Well, if it's a smartphone, it would be only shit they would be amazed by the technology. But anyway, this mystery that he's on and on about, well, maybe not today yet. Like where it is. First day when he got here, he wanted to call his parents, he asked them. He hasn't yet tried to use his cell phone. Not that we know of. And it's like they show everything significant. He hasn't tried to use his cell phone for anything. He has just used it as a watch, a clock, for the clock. That's the only usage he has had from the cell phone. And he has complained about the battery going out and that he hasn't brought a charger. Like, why not? Why didn't he move around to see if he could get an reception? Like, he doesn't know, he assumes that he won't get any. Still, you would try. Strangely enough, my body didn't ache, my head felt clearer, and all in all, it was a good beginning to the day. After waving my arms, pretending to do early exercises, I sprang out of the cabins and headed to the washstands. Yeah, I slept through breakfast. It will be served lunch soon, so I shouldn't worry that I'll have to stay hungry like I did yesterday. I'm interested. I don't think I've ever pretended to exercise when I was alone. Why would one do that? Was he lying to himself? Was that the deal? That he was like, yeah, let's do my morning exercises or whatever. And then he just half-assed it. That's why he said he pretended. See that. Along the way, I met a pioneer whose face looked strangely familiar. I was going so fast I couldn't really see him. And when I turned around, he was already gone around the corner. There was nobody near the washstands. Everyone is probably busy with oil and gas tasks, and God knows what else. Quickly brushed my teeth and washed my face. I was already going to leave when suddenly I heard the sound of water flowing from the opposite tap. A pioneer leaned against the washstand over there. I couldn't see his face, but judging by his figure, he looked like the one I saw a couple of minutes ago. The pioneer is asking, "How are you doing? The sun is so bright today." I looked up into the sky, shielding my eyes with my palm. Yeah, nothing special. It wasn't easy to get a better look at the pioneer given the way he stood. Bright sunlight that reflected from the water and shiny metal surfaces of the washstands heavily obscuring his face. And I wasn't able to distinguish any single feature. The camp leader is angry today, so angry. His voice sounded painfully familiar too. Well, she's always like that. Well, you'd know better, yeah. I try to remember if I've ever heard this voice or seen this pioneer before. Well, see ya. I turned the water off and quickly marched towards the forest path. For a second I thought of following him, stopping him, but I quickly fought it off, as I decided it was not worth spoiling such a great morning with suspicions and burdensome speculations. Nature was glowing with the bright light of life. Lush treetops were rhythmically swaying in the wind, whispering to each other. The breeze gently stoked the high emerald grass. Birds were cooing in the shade, escaping the midday heat. Oh, the birds were escaping. The woods and fields, stretching beneath the horizon, were dissolving in warm sunlight. I don't know which month it is now, but it looks like midsummer. I distinctly remembered the summer vacations of my childhood and youth, times of fun and leisure and carefree joy. Childhood games, how many there were. I wouldn't say no to playing war games or hide and seek now. Or swinging on a bungee. Or maybe building a sand castle, inhabiting it with toy soldiers, ready to defend their masters to the last drop of their plastic. Bring the wake at, I can't see. I went to the square and sat on the bench, waiting for lunch. It looked like there wasn't much time left before. From time to time, pioneers passed by me, sometimes alone, sometimes in pairs or in groups of three, but always someone I didn't know. Elisa, Uliana, Lena, or Slavia were nowhere to be seen. Nope, 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 nope. That is not okay. Nope. Let's do like this. There we go. Calm down, sweetheart. Calm down. Damn it. Thoughts about the meaninglessness of existence were circling in my brain, but this didn't worry me on such a beautiful day. Just think about it. Who could think of grieving for his life lived in vain or lost early while basking in the rays of such a friendly sun? Certainly not me. I looked upon Genda. He was meditating as always. Now he definitely never gets any unnecessary doubts. I remember my first hours in this camp, the day before, the anguish, the anxiety, and the fear. That all seems so far away now, although so little time has passed. Will I get out of here or not? Didn't concern me as much as before. Finally, he's accepting it. Maybe I'm already dead. And this is the last stop. Please get off the train. What are you thinking about? Asked Pioneer, that I've seen before. I couldn't see his face again after the sun was shining in my eyes. Life. It seemed he would sit down next to me, but the Pioneer stayed in the same place, only half turned, which completely killed any hope of seeing his face. Listen, have we met earlier? I don't think I remember you. Well, let's say that you know who I am. I don't. He laughed sincerely. Here, you don't. He answered short. Oh, I see. Honestly, it's not like I didn't want to talk. I just didn't know what to talk about. What? What? Why not? The comment he just gave seems like he comes from the other reality, just like you. And my soul was so calm that this didn't bother me. Your first time here? He asked a question, but his tone implied that he was only expecting a confirmation. Yes, and you? Me? He paused for a few seconds. Nah, it's not my first time here. One might say that I've visited this camp every year since my early childhood. Such an answer got me interested. Well, and what was it like before? Always the same. Olga being the camp leader, all the same pioneers around, all the same lineups in the morning, and all these wicked accidents. For a moment I thought that it was me speaking, not him. Interesting. Just that with every new, he hesitated. Yeah. More and more interesting things happened, and one gets to understand better what's going on. What are you talking about? This conversation positively triggered my curiosity. It's a pity that I can't distinguish my face. It's a pity that I can't distinguish the face of this pioneer at all. Well, every session in the pioneer camp reminds of the previous one, he said calmly. Probably this is my first. Shows, the pioneer grinned. But it looks like it won't be the last. Well, it's fun here and all, but you know how they say there's no place like home. But you still have to get back there. Now I was absolutely sure this guy was hiding something from me. Besides, he stood out way too much from the camp's usual ordinariness, and it was too difficult and was too different from the other local inhabitants. Yeah, for sure. It's. What do you mean? Think I'm stuck here forever or something? He said, enunciating every word. Pioneer had no time to answer as the lunch bell sounded. I turned my head towards the loudspeaker, and by the time I looked back, the guy was already gone. Thousands of theories and speculations instantly appeared in my mind, but I stopped myself, remembering all the apparent normality of this camp. After all, nothing supernatural has happened in these 5 days. Moreover, everything here seemed too natural, sometimes even boring. Maybe this pioneer didn't mean anything by that, and I just misunderstood him. Thinking that, I went to the canteen, intending to feast. Sometimes it seemed to me that lunch here is akin to the crowds around the soup kitchens during a famine. Pioneers were running around, pushing each other, trying to call through. Pioneers were running around, pushing each other, trying to crawl through for the first meal and to take the most comfortable table. They all looked the same to me, the tables. I was calmly standing and patiently waiting for the cook to get me my assigned food rations. For today we had okroshka, which I didn't really like, and cutlets with potatoes. I sat in the corner and mentally rejoiced that I would be able to eat in peace. My table was the farthest from the kitchen. I could reasonably hope that the pioneers who were looking for a free place didn't reach it, or would reach it last. However, when I moved on to the main course, Slavia, Shurik, and Electronic appeared from the crowd. Can we? I had nothing against their company, of course. Lunch was going surprisingly calm. Even Electronic wasn't jabbering as much as it usually does. I finally finished the meal, sprawled in my chair, satisfied, clicked my tongue. Listen, do you know this pioneer? I saw him today. You know, he's so. I suddenly realized that I don't really know how to describe him. Well, about my height, same constitution. Hard to say from such a description, Slavia smiled. Well, we have half a camp of such guys, if it comes to that. All in all, they were right. Why are you asking? It's just that I met him today, and it seemed like I hadn't met him before. Look in the canteen. I don't think he'll miss lunch. Why didn't I think of that? That's it, okay? Okay, guys, enjoy your meal. So I got up and started to slowly walk around the rows of tables. Lena and Senja are sitting over there. I gave them a friendly smile. Alisa and Uliana are laughing and arguing about something. Olga, surrounded by pioneers. Good thing she didn't notice me. There are hardly any free seats, but the guy from this morning is nowhere to be seen. The situation's getting more and more interesting. Looks like I won't find him here. Maybe he's already had lunch. I headed to the exit. It was so hot outside that it seemed like you would instantly melt after coming out of the shade. Suddenly felt like sleeping, yawned and headed to the camp leader's cabin in order to follow the domestic interpretation of the Archimedes principle. What's the Archimedes principle? Damn it. Sleeping in the middle of the day? Because I often do that. In the end, Olga is unlikely to return here anytime soon. At least I think so. And I will definitely have a couple of hours to rest. Anyways, I really don't expect any other options to arise, especially in this heat. heavenly coolness in the cabin became my salvation. I took my clothes off and jumped into bed. Crickets were lazily chirping outside. The wind was shaking the curtains on the window, and I sank into a dream. Knocking on the door woke me up. The knocks were soft but insistent. I reluctantly got up and went to open the door. Strangely, there was nobody on the doorstep. I rubbed my eyes and stepped out to look around. All the same, no one around. Dream, maybe. It was already 4 o'clock. I felt jaded. I probably shouldn't have slept in the afternoon. After all, I knew what was going to happen. I put on my boots, left the cabin, and locked the door. But where shall I go? All in all, there's not much time till dinner. A sudden thought came to me that it would be nice to refresh myself, so I went towards the beach. The sun has passed the midday mark a while ago. It gets dark early here in the south. I squinted and looked up at the flaming disk. Who was that just now? I flinched. The same mysterious guy was standing in front of me. And once again, his face was hard to see due to the bright light. For a moment, the sun blinded me, so I could not see anything besides the faint contours of objects. Are you stalking me? Nope, I was just passing by, he answered calmly. And you should know better. So you haven't seen anyone? Correct. I rubbed my eyes, but it didn't help. Why didn't I see you at lunch? I asked bluntly. I wasn't hungry, he laughed. Blink a few times and my vision came back, but the Pioneer had miraculously disappeared once again. What the hell is going on here? Now I was absolutely sure there was something strange about that guy. He must be directly related to everything happening around here. For sure. We have to find out. Liar. You won't do thing to try to find out. You just wait until the guy shows up again. But for starters, it's good to confirm that I'm not mistaken and that he is not just a local pioneer. It was quite crowded at the beach. I looked like everyone from the camp was here. Well, no wonder it's so hot outside. Olga was standing just a bit further apart from everyone, keeping an eye on her army of pioneers. As soon as I thought that coming here might not have been the best idea, she noticed me. Hey, Simeon, you aren't at the lineup. And in general, you're just lounging around all the day. I did not know how to answer. And just how are you planning on becoming a proper pioneer? She continued more softly. Olga, in the camp, is there a pioneer who looks a lot like me? She looked surprised. Maybe, I don't know. Why do you ask? I'm just curious. Well, we have a lot of boys here. Alright, never mind. Someone's yell came from the riverside and Olga rushed in its direction. Well, it looks like I'll be spared a lecture. I lowered myself onto the sand and stared at the pioneers playing in the water. After a few minutes of sitting here, Liana approached me. Why so sad? I'm not sad. Well, why are you sitting here all alone? Just thinking. About what? I decided to spare her my story about the mysterious pioneer. Well, imagine that you're chatting with a weird person, and you have to figure out what's exactly so weird about them. Simple. I would just ask them, she laughed. Too simple. They won't answer. How do you know? Have you tried asking? Thank you, Ilyana. No, but it's obvious. Ilyana did not answer, just sat down next to me and let out a tired sigh. I'm also in that. And what if they know something but won't tell you? Make them. But how? For a bit longer we sat together talking about random things, and then I got up, said goodbye, and went away. It is time to find the mysterious stranger and get all the answers. Oh, cool. first place to visit was the bus stop. After all, this is where it all began. The road was empty, as always. Only small dust tornadoes were occasionally visible on it. I was ready to turn around and get back to the camp, but then I heard someone whisper, "Don't trust him." Someone was hiding behind the monument. A pioneer was sitting there with his back to me. And once again, the voice seemed strangely familiar. "Who are you?" I took a few steps towards him. "Stop, don't come any closer." For some reason, I froze in my tracks. From somewhere deep inside, an assurance came to me, and I understood that I shouldn't argue with him. "All right, I'll stay here." "Have you seen him? Talked to him?" He asked me nervously. "Who are we even talking about?" He was dressed in a pioneer uniform. "You know who?" And I definitely did know. He was talking about the weird pioneer I saw earlier. "Yes," I answered after a few moments of silence. "What did he tell you?" the pioneer asked in a pleading tone. "Nothing, really." "Did he give you advice? Did he tell you what to do? Threaten you?" "No, nothing like that." Of course, he seemed pretty weird, but nothing more than that. Remember, he may not be alone, or more likely, he is alone, but you may meet many pioneers who look like him. What about you? Who are you? Who are you hiding from? You will understand in time. Just remember, the most important thing is to find the exit. All of a sudden, a strong gust of wind came through, ripping leaves from the trees and throwing an old paper bag in my face. Shielding myself, I averted my gaze. When I looked back at the monument, the pioneer was already gone. At that moment, I was overwhelmed by fear, real, almost tangible fear, as I remember being scared during my first hours of this camp. Back then, everyone around me seemed so kind, so friendly. Now, Sauvignac revealed its fangs, getting ready to eat me. And ahead, the unknown. My body was covered in goosebumps, my throat was dry, and my hands were shaking. I tried to ignore it all and headed back to camp. It was already dinner time, but I had no desire to go to the canteen. After meeting the second mysterious pioneer, just thinking about the locals made me, if not afraid, then at least creeped out. Actually, this seems like a good place to save for lunch. Save game and overwrite. Yes, I do want to overwrite. And up. And let's exit.